What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the next episode of Mic'd Up with Max Webster. Today we welcome on a Philly fan, someone who's got a great podcast going here on YouTube. Philly in the podcast, my guy, Joe Castro. How you doing, my guy?
I'm good, man. Thank you for having me on. How you doing today, man?
Doing good. It's been a busy day, busy time in my life, but just try to keep the grind and have fun while doing it. That's the important part, right?
Definitely. It's always good to be busy. Busy is not a bad thing.
Absolutely. So, this podcast is all about bringing different types of content creators on, get them to come here, tell their story a little bit, because people like yourselves, all the other content creators I've had on so far are like sports content creators, mostly New York Giants content creators, because I knew that community starting my channel, so I figured that'd be a good place to start. But man, I had a blast talking with Philly 500. I'm looking forward to this episode and getting to know a little bit more about you. I've seen Tana on your channel a couple times. I hopped in there on a call-in once and talked some football, I think, pre-draft. And yeah, I'm just looking forward to the episode, man.
Definitely. Yeah, a lot of people have shown a lot of love, especially on the New York Giants side. As a content creating community, I guess. For those people that love alliteration, there you go, 3 C's in a row. But for the community, and I really do feel like it is a community. I think it's very important for us to kind of show love even within the division, because I feel like we bring something different, right? We bring something different from like what a ESPN can bring or something like that. It's kind of like your friends talking, right? That's right. Kind of the vibe we can bring. So it's been a blessing. It's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, and initially I got some hate for having some Philly fans on here, Philly content creators. But one thing I've always said, right? There's some crazy fans for every team and any team, right? I can hate the Eagles and still like the person who's a fan of that team, right? So definitely. As long as at the end of the day we're both being somewhat realistic and just having general conversation, there's no need for me to hate you because you're an Eagles fan, right?
Exactly.
My wife grew up in a household of Eagles fans, and so she is an
Eagles
fan.
Lucky her. Lucky her. Okay, I like her already.
But yes, I definitely got nothing against people who like different teams than me. There's fans that hold grudges because someone likes a different team. Now, I like the rivalry. I think it definitely during this time in the offseason spices things up, for us football fans when after the draft, right, before all these camps start, that's all we got. We get to talk about the schedule, and we get to talk crap about the other teams and how bad other teams did in different places and how good we expect our teams to be, right? Exactly. But for the people who are joining and haven't seen you already before, why don't you talk a little bit about your platform and your content, the type of things that you talk about on your channel, and where people can find you?
So I'm Joe Castro from aka Philly Fresco from Philly the podcast. Look, we're fans, that have been honored. I've been blessed to be able to interview a lot of players from the Eagles, a lot of reporters from the Eagles. Just today we had Jacoby Stevens. He was one of our draft picks this year. So it's been a very fast kind of roller coaster type of thing. It's weird. It's really weird to explain. We start. I don't know if you want me to go like deep into like the show and like how I started.
Yeah,
but
I mean it's your time to come and talk about your channel and yourself. So
I mean,
go in as deep as you want. No.
Yeah, I mean, we started last August, so we're coming up on our year in about 3 months. And honestly, I started it just kind of on a whim. I talk Eagles all the time. Obviously, there was a COVID going on, so It started as just like an audio thing. Everybody always told me I've always been the entertainer. I've always been, no pun intended. Shout out to but I've always been the entertainer type of guy that I've always been. Whether it was music when I was younger, being the jokester in class. It's always been kind of the guy that likes to be in front of people. So I tried the YouTube thing, and it just kind of, I don't really know how, but it just, I reached out to a lot of people showed love. And, now we're sitting here close to 2,000 and within a year, subscribers and almost 300,000 views. And it's like, it's crazy. So I don't know where it really started, but it kind of started and kind of took a life of its own, but it's been a lot of fun.
YouTube is many things, man. If nothing else, right? One thing my mom always said to me growing up is if when you grow up, if you do something that you love, you'll never work a day in your life. And by no
Facts.
means is this my job right now. But that's something I kept in mind when I created this channel. I wanted it to be something that I could always have fun doing, no matter where it goes. Right? If I sit at 100 subscribers and I go nowhere for the next 3 years, is this something I'm gonna be able to do and still have maintaining like good content and not get
Yeah.
burned out? You know what I mean? So that I love to talk. I love to meet new people, and so that's what this is all about. Initially, I was going to create a channel about the Giants, and I love my Giants content creators. They do a great job, but I just didn't feel like I would bring something special to draw new people to come listen to me when you already have people like Bad Dog and Tana and Bobby Skinner and Justin Pennick and all these people who have massive followings already. I just wasn't going to bring something so different that people would want to come listen to me. So,
So
go
I
ahead,
will
go ahead.
say this. I will say
Yeah,
this because I do get asked a lot. How people. We have a lot of Eagles content creators. We have a lot of
yeah,
NFC East content creators. And one thing I will say is that me and Brandon. Shout out to my guy. We've done a whole mock draft series. We did a whole 32 different teams, and it was one of the hardest things to do just because we literally found a content creator from every team. But within doing that, I saw how big the landscape is in the NFC East. And I say that to say this, man. Like, you would be surprised, because I am, trust me, but you would be surprised how many people will literally just want to hear your opinion. Because
right.
even when we started out, I wanted to be the smart guy. I wanted to be the guy that knew what I was talking about. I didn't want to, come on and just give my opinion. I wanted to give facts, and and that's cool, but that's not who I am. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? Like, so you found who you want to be. And something that somebody told me like early in doing this YouTube thing is like, find out, kind of like what you said with the never working a day in your life. Like, you got to find out what it is you want to be on this platform, and you're
Yeah.
comfortable being in front of people 24/7. Because
Facts.
it's crazy just being I do like daily content for the most part. And there's not much to talk about after a while,
Yeah.
right? So it kind of just becomes about me. So it's like you get people to kind of accept about who you are. So
Right.
I will always say, you will be surprised how different you are,
Yeah.
just being you. You know what I'm saying? So don't sell yourself short, man. If you want to do some Giants content, sure, that would be dope.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'll pop into other people's like Q&As. I talk little Giants on here with the guests, regardless of who they like. When Philly was on here, we talked about Philadelphia, of course, but I got to get my Giants talk in there a little bit too.
Definitely,
Especially in this
definitely.
offseason, spice things up a little bit. But when you introduced yourself in the podcast, you said Joe Castro, aka Philly Fresco. Why don't you tell me where that name comes from?
Honestly, all right. So when I first started it, I was doing lives by myself, right? Or I
Uh
was
huh.
doing like videos by myself. Brandon came along after a couple of the lives, and from then on, he's been with me. But so when I did it the first time, and shout out to my roommate, right? So I said it in a video, and he heard me, like overheard me, right? This wasn't recorded. I mean, this wasn't live. This was just recorded. And I said, Joe Castro, aka Philly Fresco. He was like, "What the heck did you just call yourself?" And he's like, "Bruh, are you really?" And he's like, "Are you really gonna go with it?" So like, realistically, like, that's my boy. Like, my roommate is like my brother to me. But
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
so
Is that
at
your
first,
co-host?
no,
Is he
no,
your
my roommate.
roommate? Okay.
I grew up with my roommate for a while ago. But either way, yeah. So at first, it was kind of just like, whatever, I'm gonna do it. Like, whatever, I'm gonna
Right,
do
right,
it,
right.
and it kind of just stuck. So like, it's weird. I'm Puerto Rican at the end of the day, so like, I had to put my own little spin on it and put my own little. Everybody's Philly something. So I
Yeah,
was
yeah,
just like, all right, I'm Philly Fresco, kind of as a joke,
yeah.
and it just stuck, to be honest, which is funny, but it's cool. It is what it is.
Right.
People know me as that, so it's pretty cool. I'm not gonna lie.
Now another thing I noticed recently, because I was watching another one of your live streams. I feel like I think Tana was in there. You had a Washington content creator and a Dallas. It was like the first one right after the draft. You guys were talking about who had the best draft or whatever. I think that was on your channel, yeah.
Yeah.
And someone brought it up, and then I had to go back to a couple videos and play it back. I realized in your intro you're the one rapping, right? So is that just
Yeah.
is that just something that you did for your intro, or is this something you do as a hobby outside of YouTube pretty consistently?
So yes and no. So like I used to do music when I was growing up. So when I was growing up, I don't know how to say, like, I did some pretty good things. Like I've opened up for like Fat Joe for this I've opened up for some pretty cool people. But either way, like I did some music when I was younger. My friends like really into it. I kind of fell off of it, but like when I did buy all of this mic, because I've had this microphone for a while and my audio box and everything. So like when I first bought it, it was to do music just like for
Right.
fun. Just to kind of like, I'm sure if you go through the YouTube sphere, you can probably find some of my music. But I did it just for fun, just to learn some stuff, while I was bored, and I didn't really have that much fun doing the music anymore. And then with the intro, I had a different intro, and the beat that is for that intro is actually made by an old like high school friend, Bobby Claiborne, DJ Game Boy. Shout out to him. And I just did it just for the beat. I was just trying to look out for my boy and vice versa. And I was asking people like, bro, like somebody make a song to it. Like we own the beat, like somebody give me a intro song.
Right.
I'll try and promote one of my friends that make music. And when I tell you, everybody was like, yeah, I got you, I'll do it. And nobody did it. So after like after like a week or two, I just was like, you know what, whatever. I'm gonna make one and just mess around. And people loved it. Like, you know what I'm saying? People loved it when I first dropped it. So I don't think a lot of people realize that I'm rapping on there, which is fine.
Yeah.
But I've had, a couple of like we've had Dave Spadero, who's like a Eagles insider. We've had, even players, Jason Huntley and like I said, Jacoby Steve. And they just like you do, you get to see them in the background before they're actually, think that they're live. So you see them bopping and stuff. So it's like, damn, all right, it makes you feel good. But
Right, for
yeah,
sure.
just kind of started because nobody else wanted to do it. But
Right. All right. So obviously you're a Philly fan. Tell us a little bit about where you live currently. If you grew up there, you said you're Puerto Rican, so maybe you got some background there. Just different places you've lived and maybe some experiences that stand out to you from living in these different places.
yeah, so right now currently I live in Florida. I live like right outside of Tampa.
Okay.
I just moved out here last May, like when I start last May, because it took a couple months before I started the podcast. But just basically mid COVID, just me and my boy was like, let's go meet up in Florida. Before that, I was in Colorado. I grew up in Connecticut. I move around a lot, before doing anything, like, I was right now currently I'm in school, but like before that I was a chef, like
Okay.
pre-COVID and everything. So I was
What kind?
able
What
to
type of
move
food?
anything basically. Like I was kind of one of those private guys that like I literally was cooking for a family in Colorado and they paid for me to live out there.
Oh
Like
wow.
I went to
Nice.
like Maine and cooked for like camps of people from different countries. I've found some really cool little niche opportunities that got
Yeah,
me,
for sure.
able to get out of Connecticut, because Connecticut's boring, very boring. I don't know if you've ever been there, but either way. So I like to move around a lot, so that was kind of the experience in itself. Like I was able to meet a lot of different people and be able to kind of turn it on like that. And like
Right.
that's kind of always helped me, even with doing interviews or doing my own content live and stuff like that. It just, I'm able to connect to people, I feel like, you know what I mean, because of my
Right. Right. Right.
experience, because of moving around so much, meeting so many new people. So I think it's a big factor in what I do to this day. So I think it's definitely a help in what I do. And even cooking, as weird as it may sound, like I find myself more structured and more how do I say this? I pay attention like to the smaller details of some things that I do, and I
Yeah.
kind of find myself like kind of in the kitchen and having my boy Brandon. Sometimes it's like you got to have that teamwork. So, I feel like my past has a lot to do with what I wanted to make with this podcast. Because just kind of like you, to be 100% honest, when I first started this, like I didn't want to do what everybody else was doing. Like I felt like there was so many people that were doing what I'm doing now, and like there was so many people that were doing podcasts and doing it well, that it was like I don't know who I would, where I would fall in. So, I kind of found the niche of just like reaching out and trying to, get selling myself. That's really what it came down to, is I sold myself. And getting people on the show and stuff like that, and just collaborating. And you'd
Networking
be
is huge,
surprised.
man.
Yeah,
Networking is
yeah,
huge.
that collaborating is like the biggest thing for any channel, realistically.
Yeah.
Like and then obviously you got to keep them. But
Right.
it's been a wild ride. It's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how much you've seen of my podcast episodes or what you've seen of what I've told the audience about me. I just separated active duty Air Force. During that time, I got to travel lots of places. I spent the last 6 years living in Texas, Arkansas. I was in Florida for a short period of time in the Panhandle, Destin area, if you're familiar with Destin, Fort Walton, that sort of place. I spent some last 3.5 years. I was in the Phoenix area. I live 15 minutes away from the Cardinal Stadium, and then I went up to Idaho for a little while too. But
That's
so
awesome.
yeah,
Thank
I
you for your
completely.
service. Thank you for
Well,
your service.
I appreciate the support, man. But you when you don't like, I didn't have this when I was in the Air Force, right? So you don't realize like how big network can be. Um,
Hmm.
and I thought like when I left the military and I decided to come closer to home, like my networking window was gonna shrink, right? Because it's coming back home. People in the area, a lot of the people who stay there probably are from there, and a lot of people know you. But it's crazy because I came back to New York, and I joined the Air National Guard here, um, and like it's not necessarily just collaborating with other content creators or anything like that. Like that's great. I mean it's pretty much what my podcast is about, right? My podcast is nothing without the people I bring on. um, but like a dude I work with, right? He runs a website, and I told him about my podcast. I was showing it to him, just kind of letting him know what it's about and blah blah. And he was like, "Oh look, I run a website, and I do things like t-shirts, hats, and whatnot." So like this dude just hooked me up with like a free thing of merch line, right? So like
That's fire.
just coming back home, just things like that, right? Things that you wouldn't expect. Networking is just it's huge. And that's just something I have to be grateful for my time going around. But of all the places you lived, right? And you might have spent like me, I spent not much time in Florida or Idaho, a little less time in Texas. I spent most of my time in Arkansas and Arizona. But what are some of your like favorite memories from each location, like, or one memory that stands out, or a favorite location and why?
Let me think. I would probably say most recently, like I said, I was in Colorado. Colorado, I lived in a beautiful area. Like I lived in the Morrison area, which is like 30 minutes right outside of downtown Denver. So it's like
Okay.
in the mountains. So you're literally driving into the mountains every day to go home, and it was beautiful. But I do remember one time, I was walking from like one side of the house, like outside, and I walked inside and walked to the other side of the house. And from one side it was sunny, beautiful, and literally when I got out the other side of the door, it was hailing, like nickel size hail, and I was like, all right, this doesn't happen everywhere, but like Colorado was probably my favorite place to live as far as just scenery and just how it is out there. The vibe is very cool, and
Yeah.
where I was living, like I said, it was very scenic. Um, you know, Another place that I enjoyed living at, I'll probably say it was Maine. I lived
Mm-hmm.
out there, but it was only for like summers. I lived out there for like 2 summers, and I was cooking for like a bunch of international students or something like that, and it was like 300 people there. But it was really dope. It was like in the middle of nowhere, but you were right on a lake and like
Right.
had access to boats and stuff like that. So I was out there on boats and stuff. Um, but yeah, I mean, yeah, that's probably like the two best places that I've stayed. I've been in some other place. Like I've been in like Tennessee for a little while. I obviously live in Florida. I lived in Jacksonville, which was nice for a while. But I mean, where I live now is nice, but it's more of like kind of like it's like a party city. It's got a lot of
Right.
beaches and stuff like that. But it's a nice place. You know what I'm saying? But no like crazy memories here yet. I still got a little
Right.
bit
Right.
of
Right.
time.
I mean, you're in
Maybe I'll
Florida.
make
It's
some
only a
soon.
matter of time, right? There's
Exactly,
there's
exactly.
crazy things
I came
happening
here during
everywhere.
COVID. Exactly. I came here during COVID, so I still got time. I'm sure they'll make up for that lost time.
Oh yeah, I don't know if you know who Bobby Skinner is. He's a guy on the Talking Giants podcast. They have a YouTube channel, and he's in Florida. If you pay attention to this man's Twitter, he's always posting crazy things that either he is doing or his friends have done. There was one video that he put up there where he was in a parking lot, and he was in the passenger seat of his buddy's car, and he's holding a grocery cart out the window, and they're driving like 25 miles an hour through this parking lot, and he just lets the cart go. Just
Oh
crazy
God.
things that happen in Florida for sure. And you always see these articles
Damn.
like I've seen a couple of times that like type into Google your birth date or whatever, Florida man, and you get all these
and
different
everything comes
articles.
up. I've done that a couple of times. I've definitely done that a couple of times. But you won't find me in any shopping carts anytime soon. Trust me, I won't be going that crazy.
But so your time as a chef, right? Your time as a cook, going around. Do you have any like big moments, right? Like maybe cooking for important people, where like even leading up to this meal, you're like, man, this is an important meal. This is massive for me as a chef. Like if this goes well, it could boom my career. If it's terrible, like this is the end. Like just some bigger moments like that, and maybe how they turned out for you.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, like the kind of moment that was able the moment that I was able to kind of find these niche jobs off of was when I was living in Jacksonville. I worked at a place, I worked at a golf, like it had houses, but it was a golf course. I'm not really sure what it's like, a private golf course, but it's like open to anyways. It was a
Yeah.
golf course. I worked in there, and there was like 3 or 4 of us, and a lot of cool people worked lived there. You know what I'm saying? Like I cooked for Tim Tebow like quite regularly. Like
Tight end
I
for the
cooked for a
Jacksonville
couple of
Jaguars, by the way.
yeah, exactly. Now he's back in the news, so it's a story I love to tell.
Right.
But I've cooked for a couple of Eagles players. Was able to meet a couple of Eagles players,
Awesome.
a bunch of Jaguars players. So it wasn't like necessarily make or break, but it was a lot of fun, and I made a lot of connections through that. I haven't used them yet. Like I haven't like when I was working there, like it was cool because you get a bunch of free tickets. You get like
Yeah.
I went to the Masters a bunch, or not the Masters, the Sawgrass Players Club tournaments for like the TPC and stuff. Uh, Golf. I don't know if anybody watches golf, but so it was cool. It was like it was definitely a cool thing at the time, but it was never like a make or break type deal. It was like it was just one of those things that it's like I can't really believe I did that. But we've done a lot of cool things. I'm trying to think. I'm sure there was like brunches and stuff like that, like our Mother's Day. Since we're in Mother's Day anyways, it reminds me. But we had big Mother's Day brunches and stuff like that, where you got like Racine Mathis, Roy Miller from the Jaguars, Tim Tebow. You got a whole bunch of people that you watch on TV right in front of you. So it was always kind of a humbling experience, but it's helped me now too, because like interviewing some of these people, you don't understand how, like, I'm sure you do, but I get so nervous right before. It's just like, all right, let me make sure I remember my name, I remember his name. Like I
Yeah. Right.
watch I watch probably like 15 of other people's interviews before I interview them, just to make sure I don't mess up people's names. Cause like
Right.
I feel like that's your first impression, right? Like
Yeah.
if I totally butcher your name while I'm introducing you, I don't see the rest of the interview going that well. You know what I mean? Like,
Right. Well,
so
and I did stumble at the beginning. Don't think it was because I didn't remember your podcast name. I was talking a little bit too fast over the intro, so I had to
You're
pause
good.
for a second so that the timing was
You're
good.
good.
So
And
hopefully
I
we're
didn't
off
even
to a
notice. No, I
decent
didn't even
decent
notice.
foot on this.
No, we're doing great. We're doing great. We're doing great. No, because I've had like we've had a bunch of different reporters. Like Sheil Kapadi is a great person to use as an example. Had an amazing interview. Had a great time. He's a great person. But I watched like 4 different interviews to make sure I was pronouncing his name right. Even
Right.
our punter, we had the Eagles punter, and his name's Aaron Sippas. But there's like a accent mark over his O and all this stuff. So I had to like make sure. I don't know why. It's just like it's a thing with me. I would feel so bad if after I'm telling these guys, I'm a huge fan of the Eagles, would love to have you on here. I can't even say your name. I would feel so bad. I would feel so bad.
Right. Well, this next question is kind of a two-part question, but it's all for the same thing, right? I want to know what inspired you to become a content creator in the first place. Like what made you? Did you become a content creator? And then what was the moment that the switch changed in your head from what, I could have some interest in doing this to, and I could really do this. Like I could be good at this. Like this is what I want to do. Like what made you want to become one? And then what was that switch, that final push that made you start?
That's a good question. The influence wise, I mean, I have to give flowers while I can. Like people like Philly 500, Philly Fresh, Philly Talk Podcast, Joey Shakes. I mean, the list goes on. I can talk for days about the guys that I watched. Philly Take with RB is a really good friend of mine now as well. A lot of these guys, I watched these guys for, if not years, at the very least. I was, months before, but most of these guys years before. So I definitely was influenced by what they did, and kind of motivated by what they did. As far as getting on the channel, it was more so, shout out to my friends, Brandon, and a couple of other people that we have, and just a group chat. It's like four of us. Are five of us actually, and it's just, we've been friends for like the past 3-4 years off of just football. And
Okay.
we literally do this all the time. And they were like, go for it. You should go for it. Go for it. And so I did. Like, the moment that I really sat here and was like, maybe I could actually do this. There was probably a couple at this moment, at this time, if I'm being 100% honest. The first being when we got Derek Gunn, who's like been reporting for the Eagles since I was in like diapers. And
Oh,
it was a moment for me. Let's say that it was definitely a moment for me.
yeah.
Shout out to Brandon. He's actually the one that set that up. But we talked to him for like 45 minutes, and to this day I really can't believe that we did that. So that's when I was just like, we can really do something with this. And
Right.
then when we hit 1,000, to be honest, when we hit 1K, the support, and just, it's crazy. I, not trying to flex, but like, I we get paid to like talk about football, which is like
Right.
kind of insane. It's like
Yeah.
a year ago I would never ever think that. And it's crazy. And obviously you don't do it for the money, but like I said, once you hit those milestone, and you see, okay, if I really take this serious, like, I could really do something big with this. So
Right.
it's more than just a channel to me now. It's like, there's this upcoming season we're working. We haven't really announced anything too official yet, but a little bit of disclosure I guess I can give is that we are working with people to be closer to these games. So the likelihood of this channel getting a little bit, you know, more real, more, it's crazy to me. It's
Right.
just,
You're saying closer
we've
to
had
these
some
games
crazy.
as in like the content creation game and just getting higher profile people? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, and during the season, we're working on trying to get out to the games as well,
Okay.
and trying to work with some people that are out there that can kind of hook us up, like pregame and stuff like that. So
Nice.
we're hoping that we can definitely, grow it as crazy as we can. Like,
Right.
that's really all it comes down to, is just, continually grinding, because I know
Right.
it's not gonna get easy. Because even this last month, I took like a nice little break. You know what I mean? And it was weird. It was nice because like I didn't lose everybody, but I was nervous. I was like,
Yeah.
because I feel like with YouTube, you take a little bit of time off. It doesn't matter how many subscribers you have, and you can be forgotten just like that,
Oh
especially in
yeah.
this type of game where there's so
Right.
many people that are doing it so well. So
Well, and I
it's a
mean,
blessing.
I've only been doing this for like 2 months now, right? This is going to be episode 12. It'll be out now. As of today, it's going to be out tomorrow evening. But when everybody's seeing this, obviously it's out now. But I mean, even still at a year in, you're still a young channel, right? 1 year, right? That's a young channel, regardless of size. Time wise, it's a young channel. Like, you have people on YouTube who've been doing this, again, regardless of size, for a long, long time.
Yeah.
So when you do take those breaks, especially as a young channel, it's much easier to be forgotten.
Get
If you have
lost.
that,
Yeah, get
yeah,
lost in that.
yep. If you have that presence, even if you only have 500 subscribers, right? If you've been on YouTube for 9 years, you have 500 subscribers. I don't think one of those 500 people are going to forget about you in 2 weeks, right?
Yeah,
But
definitely.
but if you've been doing it for a couple of months and you take 2 weeks off, half of your subscribers might go, "Oh, I just subbed to this dude, and now he's not even doing anything." Deuces, you know what I
Exactly.
mean? So,
Exactly. Yeah.
but yeah, I do think at this point we'll kind of transition into talking a little bit about football. We're about the halfway mark into the end of the interview, so I'll get your thoughts on. We'll go back to free agency, right? Things that you're happy with and not happy with from free agency from the Philadelphia Eagles.
I feel honestly, this free agency, I wasn't really expecting much. This off season in general, I wasn't really expecting much. Draft, I guess, is a different whole different topic as far as expectations. But as far as free agency, I was happy with what we were able to do because we were able to retain some veterans, at good prices. And I'm happy about that. And then we were also able to get some guys like Anthony Harris, and then the linebacker Eric Wilson, both from Vikings. So I mean, those were good moves. Those were solid moves. Those were positions of needs. Do I feel that the Eagles addressed every position that we needed to? No, I definitely come out of this off season a little bit,
A
scratching my
little
head a
weary.
little bit.
A little
Yeah,
weary.
there's definitely cautious optimism, but I think that we did get some good players. I think that we're a very young team. I love, and I think free agency has to include our coaching staff, and I love our coaching staff. So I think that we're headed in the right direction. I know that it was a ugly breakup, but I trust, if there's anything that I trust Jeffrey Lurie and Howie Roseman with, it's picking coaches. We haven't had to pick many, although these past couple have not turned out great. We did get a Super Bowl. We did get a Super Bowl out of Doug Peterson. We did get, 2 winning seasons out of Chip Kelly. So it's not like they're terrible coaches. We just got to find somebody that fits our system and fits
Right.
our culture. So I like what we've done so far. I can't complain too much.
Well, you did bring up the Super Bowl. So I do have to ask, we're talking about the changing in the coaching staff. Does it bother you that after one Super Bowl win, Doug Peterson and Nick Foles get statues, and now 2 years, 3 years later, neither one of them are even in the organization anymore?
I don't mind the statue, to be honest with you. Like, I mean, if it was anybody else, he probably would have got it too. Like, it was, we've been hungry for so long. Like, if I didn't eat for 56 years and you gave me a sandwich, my man, I'm making a statue of that sandwich. Like it just is what it is, man. We've been waiting for that for so long. They deserved it.
Yeah.
But as far as where we are now, I'm still on the fence about what happened. I really, like I said, we've talked to a bunch of different reporters, and honestly, I still have no idea what the heck happened, because it's like, it's so weird. Like you said, we're 3 years from a Super Bowl, and it just like slowly deteriorated. I can't speak. But and then we as Eagles fans hate Howie Roseman, so this only makes that worse. You know what I'm saying? But it's like, then you start looking at some of the stuff in depth, and you're like, okay, well, maybe Howie's not making the worst decisions, but it's still fire Howie, right? It's so hard to know who to hate as a Philadelphia Eagles fan right now. Like, I think we all hate Howie, but it's like, who else is at fault here? Because, obviously we lost our quarterback. Obviously we lost our coach, but when that happened, it was really like we thought one would fix the other, right? Like, we thought if we got rid of Carson, then Doug would stay. If we got rid of Doug, Carson would stay. But we lost them both. So it was like, what was the real problem? Like, what, so I don't know, man. And I'm sure it's like this with the Giants as well. We're getting fed a lot of, I don't even want to say misinformation, because maybe that's a little harsh, but like a lot of contradicting stories, a lot of contradicting rumors throughout the offseason, because obviously a lot of media personnel are not around
Yeah.
players and teams like they usually are. So, maybe some stories just shouldn't come out, but it is what it is. It's a very confusing time as an Eagles fan.
Well, one thing I will say about the Eagles Super Bowl win, and as much as it hurts as a Giants fan,
It was beautiful. It was.
no matter how bad our division was last year as far as records are concerned, we're still the best division in football, because we're the only division in football to have every single team have a Super Bowl ring. There's no other division in football that can say that. So no matter how bad the teams are, we're still the best division. And I think it's the best because we're always competitive, right? Whenever one of us is bad, we tend to all be bad, and it's still competitive. But when we start getting good, we're all usually competing together. And so it's always a toss-up, right? Like, you could probably look at the Chiefs division and go, yeah, the Chargers, they're an improving team, but who's going to win that division? Everybody knows the Chiefs are going to come out the division champions, right? I mean, any given Sunday, right, all it takes is one injury. But injuries aside, there's divisions that people could just look at and go, they're winning the division this year. And I don't think there's really any year that we could do that in the NFC East, right? You have favorites, clearly, based on rosters. Like, truthfully, the Eagles should have been the favorites to win the division this past season based on roster talent, right? That's what I heard from the media. That's what I heard from most fans, and it just didn't turn out that way. But you talked a little bit about your coaching staff and how much you love Howie Roseman for all that. Let me say I love Howie Roseman for his draft picks.
Oh my God.
Jalen Reagor, JJ Arcega-Whiteside. Oh, keep picking those guys.
Honestly, and this is, look, I don't love Howie. I think that's very obvious. We have fire Howie Roseman merchandise if you guys want it. But my thing with Howie is like, my thing with Howie, especially his drafting, is like, I don't know who runs this team. Like there's reports. I mean, I have a feeling that it's Howie Roseman. I have a feeling that Howie Roseman makes a lot of these bad decisions. But at the same time, it's like, maybe Jeffrey Lurie is at the end of the day, it's not maybe. Jeffrey Lurie is either compliant with it or he's the one supplying the information, saying this is what I want to do. So it gets murky for me, and we talk about it all the time and people want to see Howie Roseman gone, but it's just not going to happen. He's not going anywhere. The best case scenario is that he gets like demoted, he gets taken away from football operations type things. But as far as trading, I mean, look, I know as a Giants fan, this will probably make you kind of upset, but like we fleeced this draft. I mean, we moved back out of we turned the number 6 pick into Devontae Smith and a first round pick next year. And we did all of that while upsetting an entire fan base. I mean,
if we're going to talk about the draft, right, I'll give my honest opinion on Devontae Smith. Do I think the Giants would have taken him at 11? Absolutely. Would I have enjoyed that pick? 100%. Was Devontae Smith my number one guy that I wanted? Absolutely not. I wanted an offensive lineman. I wanted Rashawn Slater or even AVT at 11. Offensive line was that important for me this offseason. I wanted one of those two. Now, as we got closer and the rumors came out, I looked at it as more of a, instead of who do I want, who do I think the Giants are going to take? I think initially I was caught off guard. One, because it was an in-division trade. But I thank you guys for making that trade because of the amount of draft capital and stuff that we were able to get out of it, right? We have an extra first next year. We got Kadarius Toney, who was at minimum a lot of people's wide receiver 5 in the draft this year. He fits our scheme well. And then once again in the second round, we traded back again and got a future third next year. And we picked up Azeez Ojulari at 50, who was thought to be a possible first-round prospect, and without any injury concern, possibly the best edge in the draft class. So, as a Giants fan, initially was I shocked or maybe a little upset at what happened? Sure, just because as the draft approached, it just seemed to be, Devontae Smith is going to the Giants at 11. That's just what the talk was. So every fan's like, we're getting Devontae Smith, and then the draft board starts to go, and you're like, okay. And then it was a shock, right? But I'm not upset by any means. I think Devontae Smith is going to be a good wide receiver in the NFL. But I don't necessarily think he was what our offense even needed. I think Kadarius Toney fits that role a bit more, right? He's that speedy, shifty guy who you can send in motion, and I think it's extra important for the New York Giants because next year we can actually cut Sterling Shepard. Not that I don't like the player, but we're paying him a ton of money. We'll save a ton of money in the next year after, the year that we just gave a whole bunch of money to all these new players that we're going to have to save in cap next year, right? So it's going to be a massive thing. And I just think Kadarius Toney is going to be a far better slot receiver than Devontae Smith would have been, right? Like right now, Devontae Smith is your guys' wide receiver 1 in Philadelphia. So I'm happy with the Kadarius Toney pick. At first, when they called his name, my reaction was this. Right? Because as soon as the Giants traded back, I was like, they're taking an edge in the first round, right? It wasn't another I'm upset at this pick. It was a shock factor because it was Devontae Smith, right? And then it wasn't Devontae Smith. Okay, we trade back. Awesome, we get draft capital. We get back to the Bears pick, and we're like, it's going to be an edge player. Probably Kwity Paye because he's still here. And they said, wide receiver Kadarius Toney, and I just went...
I mean, if
out
you
of
know,
shock.
and to like kind of play off what Entertainer was telling me, Entertainer, he didn't have Devontae Smith as his. To me, Devontae Smith wasn't my number one guy,
Right.
but at that time, it was a beautiful. I loved the decision. That was probably the number one choice at that time. But you know, it really, I think the Washington football team and the Giants probably had the best drafts. You know, I don't
Okay.
think that the Eagles are very far behind. I don't think like we had a terrible draft. Like I do think kind of the Cowboys, will see. They either had an amazing draft or they had a horrible draft, because either all these defensive players are going to work out and they'll finally figure out that defensive side, or they just kept on throwing darts and was like, all
Right.
right, next we're gonna take. So and that's kind of what it felt like. But like realistically, the Giants could switch their first two picks, and I think you're still probably even happier with it. Like if
Yeah.
you would have took Z's, what's it called?
In the first
If you
round
would've
at
took
20.
Z's, then you know Kadarius in
Kadarius
the
20
second
at 50. Yeah.
people would have been going crazy. People would have
Oh
been,
yeah.
you know, that's the steal. So I think either way, you guys had a good draft and you guys
Yeah.
didn't reach. Same thing with Washington. I know Washington, their main focus was to go get a quarterback, but when you can't, you know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, they could have been like the third or fourth round, but obviously they didn't believe in any of those guys. So
Right.
when you can't, you go ahead and you fill the roles that the holes that you do have. And I think that they did that. The Eagles, I feel like we stuck to our board. I'll say that. Like we definitely didn't reach on anybody. Like the Milton Williams pick is a little bit of a reach in my opinion, but you know, hey, he might become a great player. He was, you know, the top defensive guy on a lot of people's board at that time. So it is what it is. But the Landon Dickerson pick, if he stays healthy, he's probably going to be a top 3 offensive lineman in this draft easily. Like, and it's arguable that he's probably even better than maybe a Rashawn Slater, because he has that same versatility. So I understand that pick. It has a question for me just because of the injury history,
The
and obviously the
ACLs.
Eagles.
Yeah.
You know, and the Eagles, man, we are not, you know, we do not have the best history with injuries, man. So it gets me nervous in that sense. But then once you get out of the first 3 rounds, I think that we just continuously took the best player available. Now, like,
Yeah.
I'm not saying everybody's going to be a steal, but I have high hopes for some of these guys that we took in the late rounds. And, you know, just even going back to the interview we had earlier with Jacoby Stevens, you know, he has a real chance to be a starter, you know, and he was taken in the 6th round, you know, so, and that's real, you know, that shows you where we are.
Right.
Don't get me wrong. We're not the greatest teams in the world, but man, he's got some talent and he's got a real chance to make this roster. And if we can get some of these young guys on the active roster as starters and building towards the future, I think the Eagles have a chance to really shock a lot of people this upcoming year and moving forward, to be honest.
Well, with that being said, I always appreciate being able to talk to a level-headed fan of any sport, right? I've heard a lot of Eagles fans basically coming into YouTube chats or making their own posts on Twitter. You know, Twitter just gets crazy. But anyways, basically, I don't know if they're being serious or not, but there seems to be quite a bit of buzz behind it. And the fact that some Eagles fans think that the pick of Devontae Smith now puts you guys as division favorites, or from like what was thought to be a clear last place into now possible division winning contenders. Just that one player.
Well, I'll say this. I don't think we were ever clear last place. I'll put that. We'll fix that one before we move on too far from that. But but go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no. I just wanted to get the thought process. If you've heard that from any of your or your subscribers or other content creators, like, and the thought process behind that, because in my eyes, right, there's only one position on that field where one player can make the difference of, our expectations aren't the greatest, to, wow, we could win the division. And that position isn't wide receiver. That's a quarterback. Right?
I mean, go ahead.
Go ahead. No. I was done with
I mean, personally, like, do I think we're the favorites? Maybe not. Do I think anybody's a favorite in this division? No. I think realistically, every team, and if you look at the draft as well, every team drafted for years ahead. Like I think the Eagles have 10 draft picks next year. You guys stacked up on draft picks next year. The Cowboys picked a lot of players that have the possibility of not starting for a year or two, outside of maybe Micah Parsons. And realistically, he might not start in year one. He most likely will, then like 95% will, but like if Jalen Smith or Vander Neck comes in and they're healthy and they're blowing you away, I mean, where do you line them up? Yeah, I mean, we'll see. We'll see. We will definitely see. It'll be very interesting. But they kind of picked Jalen. Excuse me. They kind of picked Micah Parsons with the thought process of replacing one of those linebackers. So it'll be interesting to see if he comes out and plays right away. But anyways, and as far as the Eagles, this is the thought process I'll give you. Do I think that we're a Super Bowl contender team or a favorite to win this NFC East? Maybe not, but this is why I could see us being NFC East title winner. You know what I'm saying? Nobody knows who we are. You know what I'm saying? This is the one. This is the one year that we have like a brand new team, brand new coaching staff, brand new scheme. We do have talent. Jalen Reagor right now, didn't really get much of a chance. J-Jaw is terrible. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. We'll not sit here and back him up. But Jalen Reagor hasn't gotten a shot. Travis Fulgham, really, he got a shot, kind of balled out, then got right back on the bench. There's conflicting stories about why that happened. There was a lot of bad decision making last year, whether it comes from coaching, whether it comes from the front office. And a lot of that stuff is fixed now in our minds. We'll say fixed, right? Well, hopefully we fixed all that this offseason. So
it's fixed if it came from your coach. If it came from the front office, it's not. So
yeah, no. But I'm hoping that we can turn it around. I go back to the 2016 season where we weren't that great. You know what I'm saying? We made 2016 offseason, I should say, where we weren't that great. We made some big moves. And a year later, we were in the Super Bowl. I think that we can do that this year. And I do not think that the NFC East is that good this year. Like, as far as like one team going out there and being 12-4, I don't see it. I think the division winner is going to be maybe like 10-7, because I know there's 17 games now. So like, I don't think it's going to be, I think it's going to be another dogfight of a year. It's not going to be pretty for any team. I don't think any team's a real Super Bowl contender right now this year.
Right.
But I think that just because of that fact, I think that we have a good a shot as just as any, in my opinion. There's question marks on every single team and every single quarterback at that, to be honest. I mean, Dak Prescott is, when healthy, probably
he's got but he's got question marks, right?
Exactly. He's coming back from
this
injury. Exactly. And then we go to Danny, Pennies, or whatever you want to call him, Danny Cinco. But look,
as long as you're not going to call him Danny Fumbles, because Jalen Hurts hasn't had a great history with that one either.
Exactly.
So.
That's why I stood away from it. But no, is he going to take that next step? We'll see. And then obviously Washington just doesn't really have a quarterback right now. They have, Ryan Fitzpatrick, who can be 50-50. So he can, they might surprise us, but I think
Ryan Fitzpatrick is a stock market of a quarterback. One day he's up 100 points, the next day he's down 2. So you never know what you're going to expect from that. Yeah, exactly. Speaking of that, needs to come back up now. But I guess I just have one more question as far as the football teams go, right? Not who are you scared of playing in this division, because like you said, you personally don't see a team head and shoulders above another, right? But based on now after the draft, we kind of have a decent idea of what these rosters are going to look like and unfold to be come week 1. Based on what each team looks like right now, what team matchup wise do you fear, or not fear, but feel like you as the Eagles have the least chance of beating in the division? And same for the opposite side, right? Which do you think going into those games you're like, okay, if we have a chance of sweeping any division opponent, right, which one is it? And then if there's a possibility we lose 2 games to a division opponent, who do you see that being?
I think honestly it's kind of easy for me right now. I think that I'm gonna go with history, right? I
Okay.
feel like the Cowboys every year we split with them. If not, they sweep us. There hasn't been many years, especially in my history as a fan, that we've swept them. So, in my opinion, they probably give me the most anxiety. And like I said, I said this before the draft. Even if they went full defensive draft, I would be nervous. If they went and got Kyle Pitts in the I really wouldn't care. If they would have went and got a bunch of wide receivers, I probably wouldn't have cared. But if they fix that defense, they can be a very good team. I'm not afraid of their coach. I'm not afraid of anybody on that team, but at the end of the day, they have a lot of talent.
Right.
So at some point it might click. So I'll give them, the hardest. And hey, listen, man, you're probably not gonna like to hear this, but like I said, I'm going with
Hey.
history. Okay,
Hey.
you guys got us once last year, and that was like y'all Super Bowl. But history tells me, especially these past 5-6 years, we have a tendency of going out there and handling business against the New York Giants. So I
Confidence,
think the
brother.
New York Giants, I like your team, and I will be 100% because I like you. So I'm gonna be nice to you. So some Giants fans I get on here and I like to go at them, but like, I like your team. I do. I think you're. And you said earlier your wife was, Eagles fan, and
Yes and no,
so
right? She doesn't really care about football, but because she grew up in a household where her stepfather is an Eagles fan, she likes the Eagles. So to
So,
say.
so just to say, my whole family are Giants fans. Just a full
Okay.
disclosure, my whole family was born in New York, so they all love the Giants. So,
Right.
trust me, I hate you guys for a little bit of a different reason. But listen, I think you guys have a very good team. Your defense is very good. You guys figured out your run game without Saquon Barkley. So with him coming back, I think that'll be very interesting. I do quite like I can sit here and make the Danny Dimes jokes all the time, but I do have genuine questions about Daniel Jones,
Yeah,
and
so
and
do I.
I will.
It's fair,
I will
you know?
say, going back to when I started the channel, I was saying that I think he could break out this year because
Yeah.
I did see, maybe if you analyze it a little bit more, maybe it was garbage time stuff, whatever you want to say. But I did see him scoring touchdowns, going out there balling. And I saw a regression this past year. So I do have questions on him, and
Right.
I think you said it, right? There's not really many positions that can change the fate of a team single-handedly other than quarterback. So
Yeah.
we'll see what he does. I think he has a good team around him. He has, obviously a Pro Bowl tight end, whether he deserved it last year or not. He got it.
T-
Uh,
two maybe with Kyle Rudolph now too. Maybe two
yeah,
Pro Bowl
Kyle
tight
Rudolph is
ends.
like, if he stays healthy, but look, I think every team has realistic questions
Yeah.
about their teams, but I do also think that every team has realistic upside. So, I
Yeah.
mean, I wouldn't be surprised if the Washington football team figures it out with like some young guy and they go, because realistically, bro, I think me or you,
Well,
if
if you're going with history though, Washington's not winning the division this
because
year.
of repeat and
Right.
everything like that. But I mean, realistically, man, me or you can go out there and play quarterback as long as we don't give up too many points. Don't you know what I'm saying? If we can score 14 points, I think that defense is going to give them a lot of games. So, maybe they're not the scariest in the playoffs, but like regular season, it's a game of attrition, and they have dogs on that defensive side, and they got a lot of them. So that could be their strength, but I don't know. I do feel confident about the Eagles. I think that we can do this year.
Well, I'm glad. I want every fan base to have the same
Exactly.
confidence,
You
including
don't want a
my
guy
own,
just
right?
laying down,
Yeah,
just
no,
saying,
no,
"Man,
no.
take it, take it."
I'm saying I want the same confidence from every fan base come week 12,
Oh,
right?
let's go. Yeah,
Right? Including
I'll
Giants,
bring
right?
that
If
smoke.
the Giants sit there at 2-10, I'll sit here and I'll be like, you know what? Look, I was high on this team, but clearly, I
Mama
want
was
that
wrong
same.
again.
I don't want come week 3, Eagles fans or Giants fans or whoever content creators to come and go, man, this season isn't starting the way I thought. Maybe people who were talking about our team was right. We're not good. If you're confident in your team right now, you need to stay confident in that team.
Oh yeah,
That's just my
you gotta,
personal opinion.
keep that
But
energy throughout this season.
yeah, but before we went live, I told you every guest I have on, I ask them to give me a story, right? It could be a serious moment in your life, something that just like hit you deep, helped molded you into the man you become. It could be a hilarious story that you share with some friends or whatever. Just a story that the people who came to this channel to hear your voice, whenever they hear it, they're going to go, that's Joe Castro's story. Do you have that mind going? Do you got something for me?
Yeah.
All
So
right.
I think we'll piggyback off the fact of, like I told you, my whole family are Giants fans. So it probably begs the question how, I became the black sheep of the family and became an Eagles fan. Uh, and it's actually a pretty cool story. So me and my father was able to go to a lot of different games through like vendors. They would give him, hook him up with tickets and stuff. So as a young man, young chap, one of my first games was Eagles versus Giants, and it
Okay.
was a close game. And I didn't have a team at this time. I think I was like maybe 9, 10 or something like that. And I just remember him being like, "Listen, Joe, it's a close game. If the Giants win, you got to be a Giants fan. You got to be a Giants fan, right?" So they ended up losing. The Giants lost, and so from then on, I just ended up being a Eagles fan for like the rest of my life, just to troll him. It was like something that me and him kind of we got along through that difference. You know what I'm saying? So it was kind of our
Right.
bonding through that. So it was always fun doing that, going crazy with him. And so that's kind of how because I'm not a 4 for 4. So like I'm an Eagles fan, I'm a Nets fan. I'm obviously so Eagles, Nets, what sport am I forgetting? Baseball, Yankees. So I couldn't get away from the Yankees. That's literally the only team that my dad liked. So that was like the only thing. Like I was born with a baseball mitt in my hand and a Yankees hat on. So like that was the one thing I couldn't get away from. So basketball and football, he let me kind of spread my wings, if you will. You like that? But so I did pick the Eagles because of that. So that's kind of a little tidbit into why I'm an Eagles fan, because I get that question a lot,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and I never want to like tell the full story on a live because it's like in the middle of talking about stuff. But that's how I became an Eagles fan. I just wanted to argue with my father. Like, I think that's the best way to become an Eagles fan, because as Eagles fans, that's what we do. We argue with each other. So, I think it couldn't have happened any way better.
I mean, that's probably a cooler story than mine, right? So my name is Max Webster, obviously from the name of this podcast. I'm mic'd up with Max Webster, right? Here I am in middle school. I watched football. I never really like got into it like hugely until probably the last even couple of years, when I seriously started following the Giants and like devoting time to. But I'm here in 8th grade, and I went to school in upstate New York. One of my teachers, um, back a long, long time ago, I think he was a practice squad guy, but he played wide receiver for the Packers.
Mm.
So just because of that reason, just occasionally watching a football game, knowing that about my teacher, I was like, oh, I'll support the Packers. And then I started watching more and more games, and friends around me became Giants fans, right? And then I started watching Giant games, and I was like, Corey Webster, that man's got my last name on his jersey. I was like, well, I guess it's meant to be. I'm a Giants fan now, and that's just kind of how it happened. But
That's awesome. That's awesome.
yeah, it's not a very cool story. It's just kind of like I saw my name on a
I wish
jersey,
it
and I
was.
was like, I'm a
I wish
Giants
I
fan
saw my
now.
name on the jersey. I would not be mad. I would not be mad seeing my name on a jersey.
Right. So I think we're kind of at the point of this podcast where at the very end, I always do a rapid fire question and answer session, right? So it's just kind of, I ask a question, you answer, next question. It's just question, fire, right? So if there's anything that you want to expand on after we're done, as far as like, say you give me an answer, right? But you want to talk more about it, we can revisit that after we're done asking the questions. But during the time, it's just kind of question, answer, and we'll fire right through them, all right?
All right. Sounds good.
Let me know whenever you're ready, and we'll go ahead and start.
Well, I'm ready. I'm ready.
All right, favorite beverage. If you drink alcohol, you can give me alcoholic. If you don't, non-alcoholic, you can list both if you'd like. But favorite beverage, what is it?
Probably vitamin water.
Okay. What about favorite musical artist?
You know, I'll say J. Cole now because he's coming out with an album. So
Okay.
J. Cole right now.
What about favorite subject in school? Could be any time throughout school. I mean, obviously, hopefully, like high school or beyond.
Probably history, to be honest. I used to like history.
Nice. Yeah. What about favorite movie?
Um, I'll pro- I'll say the first one that comes to my head, and that's Billy Madison. Just because it's the fact I love that. I've probably seen that movie a million times, so I'll definitely go with that.
What is your biggest fear?
I, all right, so it's heights, but it's more specifically like getting stuck on a bridge, like in your car.
Oh,
Like,
okay.
I do a lot of road trips. So like being stuck on like a really high bridge where you can't really get off or anything
Yeah,
and
yeah,
you're
yeah.
just stuck in your car, that's a big fear of mine.
All right. Favorite board or card game?
Clue, because I like the
Okay.
movie too.
Name a job you'd be really bad at.
Making coffee, because I drink coffee like nobody's business. So like I couldn't make it for other people because I'd be so antsy and wanting some of my own. So
Okay.
definitely being like a barista.
What about if you could load up the car or jump on a plane and go anywhere in the world right now for a 2-week vacation? Obviously, the virus aside, where are you headed?
Europe. And when I say Europe, just get me there and I'll take a train everywhere else. Like I'll just backpack through Europe.
All right. How about besides your wallet and your phone, what's a must-have item on your person at all times?
My keys.
Okay. Fair.
Maybe that's a little bit too specific.
No, no, no.
Too
I mean,
literal.
it's fair. How about celebrity crush?
So I don't know, you're probably around my age-ish. Topanga from Boy Meets World.
Okay.
Like
Yeah.
to this day, like
I don't even
Danielle
know what she
Fisher,
looks like
to this,
now. Yeah, I
she's
don't
still
know.
beautiful, still gorgeous, still gorgeous.
All right.
She was in Maxim not too long ago. That's
Oh,
my girl.
really?
Yeah, so shout out to her. If she sees this, girl, I got 2,000 subscribers on YouTube. What's up?
All right. Now, the last time I asked a Philly content creator this one, I couldn't ask him in detail because of the answer I got. But what's a hidden talent that a lot of your subscribers might not know about you? I mean, we talked about your rapping on the side, or now we talked about your chef time. What's a hidden talent that your subscribers might not know about you?
Damn, that's a hard one. I
Yeah.
feel like I don't. I mean, so when I was in high school, I was like really good at baseball. When I was like in middle school and high school, I was really good
Uh-huh.
at baseball. So
Okay.
maybe that's like, most people probably didn't know. I know I did play football as well, but like if there was a sport that I would have like went to the next level had I like not been lazy, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
probably
Yeah.
would have been baseball.
What
That was
position?
like my first love. I played a lot of first base pitching, a little bit of outfield, but probably first base.
Tall guy, are you?
Big I'm a big Lou Gehrig fan. Like, like just him as a person. Obviously, I'm a Yankees fan, but like, I did a lot of research about Lou Gehrig and stuff like that. So I don't know. It was just always my spot. I rocked his number when I played and everything. So
Awesome, man. Well, look, I want to thank you for joining me. It's been a blast. Thanks to everybody who's
definitely.
came in and listened to this episode. Look, man, I'm going to go ahead and give you the floor for a minute, talk about some things that are coming up on your channel, some exciting news, maybe anything else you want to mention. I'll have the link to his podcast in the description down below, so make sure if you're here and listening to this, if you're not already a subscriber of his, go on, head over, check out his content, and subscribe. Even if you're a Giants fan, right? Like I said, you might not like necessarily what he's talking about all the time, but he's a great dude, so let's go and support him. So go ahead and talk about some things that are coming up on your channel, anything you're looking forward to.
I appreciate that. Yeah, no, look, yeah, just check me out, Philly the podcast. We do daily live streams. I have a lot of very cool guests on here, whether it's Dallas content creators, Giant content creators, Washington content creators. Just give us a chance. If you like what you see, join the family. We have a lot of different subscribe. I have like a lot of Cowboy fans that just randomly come to every show, a bunch of Giant fans that come to every show. It's a community. I really don't make it. We're not ESPN. We're not, whatever you want to call this. So come through, have fun, debate. Yeah, man, nothing too crazy coming up. I'm going to a wedding, so this week is going to be kind of quiet for me.
Okay.
But we do have some more interviews lined up from the Eagles. So, if you want to check
Nice.
that out, definitely come through. But I appreciate the time, man. This was a lot of
Absolutely.
fun, and I definitely see your channel taking off because I love the concept. And like
Appreciate
I said,
it.
I'm very jealous of your camera. Like I really want your camera. But this was a lot of fun. I appreciate it.
I mean about $1,600, and you can have the same thing I got. So,
Man, this stuff is not cheap.
But yeah, man, absolutely. Thanks for joining me. Like I said, I started with the Giants content creators because the community already knew me, right? I could easily go to these content creators and be like, look, you probably see me in your chat. I'm starting a channel. This is what it's about. You interested, right? So I'm excited to be able to branch out to other maybe communities that don't know who I am. It means a lot, right? Especially for someone as small as myself. It and as small as I am, the fact that people who don't know who I am are willing to take time out of their day to come on my podcast just means a lot. And a little earlier, we were talking about like goals for your channel, and things like that. My podcast, if I could turn it into a job every day, that'd be great. But really, what I would love to do with this is just have enough money coming in from YouTube to sustain setting up a studio somewhere. And every time I hit up a guest and be like, "Hey, do you want to come on my podcast such and such a date?" I'm set well enough where I can fly them out to me, keep them there for a night. We can have a nice podcast episode in the studio and then get them back where they need to go. That's what I would love to do. I love talking to people, even through camera here, but it's just much more fun when you're sitting in the studio. And I feel like it's going to be much easier if I'm bringing someone out to, even sit down and have more in-depth conversations, talk for longer periods of time. But I appreciate you joining me. It's meant a lot. I hope your subscribers that have come over and checked this out have enjoyed the episode. If you guys want to check out my new merch line, that'll also be down in the description below. But until next time, everybody, peace.